The county hospital in a small Midwestern town harbors a secret. A suspicious rise in the facility's death rate alarms even the people who work there. Working together, state police and local prosecutors search for the truth about this deadly medicine. Indiana Chief Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Nina Alexander and Deputy Prosecutor Greg Carter struggled to fully explain who or what was causing an epidemic at the local hospital.
In this case, we had an epidemic of death. We had death occurring in patterns and in numbers which this hospital had never seen historically.
Clinton, Indiana is a small town of 5,000 residents north of Terre Haute, in the state's western coal region. It is a community of working-class families. In the early 1990s, the community's health needs were served by the Vermillion County Hospital. A small healthcare facility, the hospital had only 56 beds, including 4 in the intensive care unit. In the quiet community, trauma cases were rare. ICU beds were usually occupied by the elderly. On December 24, 1993, 89-year-old Luella Hopkins was admitted for pneumonia. 15 days later, the grandmother's heart stopped. Cindy Watson was a registered nurse at Vermillion County Hospital at the time. She understood that patient deaths were a natural part of working in a hospital.
We had, of course, our fair share of deaths in the hospital, as every hospital does. You try to explain it, and you think, well, you know, the people are old, they are very sick, and it may just be a flu season.
Thank you.
On April 3, 1994, 74-year-old ICU patient Cecil Smith suffered a seizure.
Cecil.
He's coding. He's coding.
Cecil.
Attending nurses called a code blue, the highest alert.
Code blue, intensive care unit, code blue. Blue team, respond to ICU.
Sorry, he's in arrest.
The emergency team's quick response briefly stabilized Smith.
What's it doing now?
Doing nothing.
Bump it up to 300 joules. Come on.
When conscious, he would complain of a burning sensation in his body.
He's still nothing. Come on. Come on, Cecil. Is he defibrillating over there?
But then Smith's blood pressure spiked and his heart stopped.
What's it look like over there? Come here. Still nothing.
He died at 3:51 p.m. that day. Though saddened by the death, the hospital staff continued with their normal care. In late 1994, Watson met with a patient who had been admitted into the emergency room.
Well, that's important. Everything okay?
Yes, she's doing great.
Great.
She's doing great.
She had stabilized and was transferred to ICU for routine monitoring.
Take good care of you, all right?
Bye-bye, Maggie.
All right. Take you right on up. See you, Cindy.
Bye.
Moments later, Watson heard a code blue called.
Quick, call a code. Call a code. Hang on, Maggie. Hang on.
Her patient was dying.
Hang on, Maggie. Hang on.
It just seemed impossible. She could have, you know, had such a dramatic change in her condition so quickly. And, but you shake it off. That happens in hospitals. People are sick, people die suddenly.
Hang on, Maggie. Hang on.
Still, Watson was shaken by this death.
To say something to you. I'm really getting concerned about what's going on.
She shared her concern with another nurse, who said she had a similar experience a few weeks earlier.
I had a patient 2 weeks ago, Mrs. Alderson. She was doing great, and the next thing
She said that on November 5th, 1994, Marianne Alderson was admitted to Vermillion's ICU, complaining of chest pains. The next day, Alderson had recovered and looked forward to going home.
I'm going home tomorrow. You're leaving us so soon?
But the elderly homemaker did not leave the hospital alive.
Now we're supposed to go home.
The nurses wondered if anyone at the hospital had been tracking the ICU deaths.
I agree.
I had asked managers, and I was told, and they were told, those deaths are all being looked at.
As the year went on, normally stabilized patients kept dying in Vermillion County Hospital's ICU. Nurse Dawn Steerick, head of the unit, grew more concerned. The number of code blue deaths due to heart or respiratory failure seemed to have skyrocketed over the last year. She began speaking with her nurses. They all agreed that something was wrong, and that the only explanation was that someone in the hospital was killing the patients. Yet the nurses could scarcely bring themselves to consider that possibility.
And you think, how could this happen? In this little town, that's what we kept saying, it can't be happening in Clinton, Indiana. We were such a cohesive bunch. We loved our patients.
On February 15, 1995, Freddie Wilson entered the Vermillion Hospital to be treated for pneumonia. The next morning, his condition was excellent. Hours later, hospital staff asked Wilson's daughter to come in immediately.
He was admitted a little bit ago. Okay, you're gonna wait here for just a minute, all right?
Hold on, Mr. Wilson.
Her father's condition had become critical.
200 joules.
Despite all attempts to save him, Wilson died at 11:35 a.m.
Nothing, he's in B-fib.
Minutes later, the ICU patient in the next bed went into cardiac arrest. Doctors and nurses fought to save him,
Get the panels ready. 200 joules.
but he also died,
Ready? Clear.
as inexplicably as Wilson.
What does it look like?
CPR. Still charging.
Continue CPR. Yeah, bump it up a little bit. 350 joules.
Nurse Cindy Watson was on her way from the emergency room when she saw another patient who had also been in ICU that
Oh,
day.
she's fine.
Nurse Orville Lynn Majors told Watson he had taken the woman out of the ICU because she had become alarmed by the 2 code blue emergencies.
I went ahead and left, and when I got on the elevator, I just had the horrible feeling that this woman was going to be next. They called a code blue on her.
Steerick learned about the 3 mysterious ICU deaths. She feared that someone on her staff might be responsible. She decided to review the ICU records in the privacy of her home. Steerick broke down each ICU nurse's schedule and cross-referenced the list with the code blue calls and patient deaths. A pattern emerged. One nurse was present more often than any other at both the code blue alerts and the deaths. Lynn Majors. But Majors was a licensed practical nurse with an excellent work record.
Why don't you visit with her?
He was well liked by staff and patients,
How are you feeling? I'm all right.
and there was no proof of foul play. As she checked the charts, Steerick realized that each of the deaths could be attributed to natural causes. Yet she was very concerned with the coincidence and decided to bring the matter to the director of nursing.
Come on in.
Thanks.
Steerick explained what she had found.
I've been working on this all weekend. This is my work.
Let's see what you got.
We
The
may
nursing
have a
director
problem.
agreed that the numbers were startling,
This one particular nurse seems
but
to
it
be
didn't seem
out there.
possible that one of her nurses was actually a danger to patients.
There's just an unusual amount of deaths on this man.
Despite her reservations, she agreed to follow up on the study.
I think, Jim, you got a sec?
Yeah, come on in.
What can I do for you?
The nursing director met with a hospital administrator and showed him Stirrick's study.
My best ICU nurses brought this to me today.
There were 25 ICU deaths in 1992 and 31 in 1993. In 1994, that number more than tripled, jumping to 102. Lynn Majors' presence dominated the statistics.
Thanks a lot for bringing it to me.
It was clear they had to go to the police. It would have to be a delicate investigation. If the deaths were indeed coincidental, the hospital didn't want to destroy Majors' professional reputation, and they didn't want to create panic in the community.
It's all right.
You're talking about a man's life. You're talking about the viability of a hospital. And if you were right, if what you were thinking may be true, I mean, you were going to destroy both of those. And the ramifications were so terrible, and you weren't even sure.
On March 8, 1995, the hospital's attorney contacted State Police Detective Frank Turchi. He told him of Stirrick's informal study.
Don Stirrick's study was very important. We were told that the death rate increased and that there was one nurse that seemed present during most of the deaths. There was a problem, and obviously they were concerned, that being the hospital administration and attorney, or they wouldn't have contacted us, obviously. But where to proceed, how to proceed in this investigation was something that was going to take a lot of thought and careful planning.
Turchi wanted to interview Majors before the nurse knew of the investigation, but he never got that chance.
We need to go over some things.
On March 9, 1995, the hospital's administrator and nursing director met with Majors.
In the ICU department, and we need to look into some.
Majors knew that his work record was clear and his evaluations good.
What did I do wrong?
We're not saying you did anything wrong.
He was surprised to hear that they needed to look into some questionable records.
Answer some questions, look around in some matters.
They were suspending his nursing license for 30 days.
Still give you full salary, no loss of pay.
The move frustrated Turchi.
I did make the request to allow me to talk with them before they took action against him. We were told that the day before he was suspended with pay, and that they'd already been contacted by an attorney, so we knew that the opportunity to grab him and have a direct interview with him at the beginning was going to be very difficult.
The next day, Turchi met with Vermillion's administrator and nursing director.
What we have here is
The hospital's attorney also attended. They would need somehow to determine medically if the deaths were in fact homicides. If they were, the detective didn't want anyone to jump to early conclusions as to a suspect.
My objective was to stay open-minded and focused in this investigation. I mean, obviously, the data that we had looked at pointed pretty seriously toward Lynn Majors. However, I wanted to make sure that we eliminated any possible other suspect in that hospital.
Now, Frank, the hospital wants
They would have to do it quietly and quickly. But several weeks later, an anonymous letter was sent to the FBI, the Indiana State Department of Health, and the local news media, alleging that an angel of death was killing patients at Vermillion County Hospital. Families with loved ones who had died at Vermillion began calling the police.
We were getting just bits and pieces of information, so what I had to do was organize it to where I could get some sort of documentation as to who the patient was, who the family member, family physician, and the date and time of death. And that kind of helped us organize it and put a little bit of a plan together.
In May 1995, the detective established a satellite command post just blocks from the hospital to coordinate a complex investigation.
We actually had two separate investigations going on at the same time. One was the detectives doing the basic interview, locate witnesses, the typical type investigative work we do. And then we had the medical team who was doing the medical end of the investigation by studying, scrutinizing, absorbing what's in the medical files, and finding anything that would seem to be suspicious leading up to that patient's death.
The medical team consisted of a heart specialist, as well as experts in emergency medicine and trauma, forensic pathology, and toxicology. They reviewed the charts of 165 patients. The heart and respiratory systems of most of the patients had been continuously monitored. The medical team began with those records. Heart specialist, Dr. Eric Prostowski, helped interpret the heart rhythm strips of the patients.
A heart rhythm strip is when you put a couple patches on somebody's chest and you monitor that one rhythm strip all the time. By watching somebody's heart rhythm every second of the day, and it's perfectly normal, and then suddenly it goes flat line, or suddenly it has every beat blocked, there's very few things in life that can do that.
The medical team would try to determine if any outside force had caused the flatlines. As rumors of a serial killer spread through the community, Vermillion's nurses could still not believe one of their own was harming patients.
We were in denial for a long time of even the possibility. You know, it would pop into our head, and you think, no, that can't be possible.
Despite scores of deaths, investigators still had no concrete proof that any crime had been committed.
Come on. He's nothing.
In 1994, when staff members at Vermillion County Hospital noted that the death rate of intensive care unit patients had more than tripled, they called the Indiana State Police.
He's in VFib.
Detectives asked Dr. Eric Prostowski to look into the suspicious deaths.
Any miscreant can come up at any time when no one's looking, if you're sleeping, and push a toxic substance and you can die. Imagine now that you're a sick person with heart disease in an intensive care unit. Do you think anyone is going to give a second thought to the fact that Mr. Jones died of a heart rhythm last night? Nobody's going to even think twice about it. I mean, I probably wouldn't either if it happened once. But if you do it 20, 30, 40 times, hey, there's a pattern brewing.
The one nurse present at most of the deaths, Lynn Majors, had been suspended with pay by the hospital.
Looking good, Cecil.
State police detectives questioned hospital staff members.
Sure. Why don't you come on the porch and have a seat?
One ICU nurse told the detectives that she had noticed a medical abnormality in the code blue patients. Most had suffered respiratory arrest and then heart fluctuations. Normally, those events happened in reverse. The detectives turned to the medical team to determine what could have caused such an abnormality. Other nurses gave statements that corroborated the head nurse's study. The deaths coincided with Major's work schedule, according to Detective Frank Turchi.
He started working evenings. They could see an increase in the trend of deaths. From evenings, he went to a weekend plan, and the deaths seemed to have slowed down on the night shifts and increased on the weekends. So they basically followed him from shift to shift.
If Majors had killed the patients, investigators needed to know how. Dr. Prostowski believed the answer lay in the heart monitor strips.
As far as I'm concerned, it's no different than finding a knife at the scene of a crime or a spent bullet at the scene of a crime. Time after time, a very specific pattern had occurred that, and I do heart rhythm work every single day, and I can tell you, I can go 6 months before I see a case like that. And here's in one hospital, small little hospital, 7, 8, 10 cases of this kind of rhythm occurring in a few month period of time. I mean, it was just too coincidental.
The doctors agreed that in order to determine exactly what had interfered with the heart rhythms, They needed access to the bodies. The deceased patients would have to be exhumed.
It was a very difficult situation for them. I mean, the families, they'd gone through a funeral and burial process, and they kind of had to do it all over again.
On September 18, 1995, the first body was exhumed for autopsy. Local media covered the investigation intensely. The first autopsy revealed no significant new information. The cause of death still appeared to be natural causes. Nothing at all implicated Majors in the patient's death. The Indiana State Nursing Board held hearings to determine if Majors' license should be revoked. The suspended nurse hired attorney I. Marshall Pincus to defend him in what he considered unfair hearings.
They basically labeled him as the angel of death. What we were trying to do was to try and show just how very, very weak and uncalled for these allegations were, and how innocent Lynn was, and in fact that not only him being innocent, but that no one had been murdered at this hospital.
Despite the defense, the board permanently suspended Majors' nursing license.
They took my license.
He and his lawyers discussed suing Vermillion County Hospital and the state of Indiana for violating his constitutional rights.
They've taken my license away.
Investigators ordered a second body exhumed. They hoped to find proof of their allegations in the mysterious death of Derek Maxwell. Maxwell had been admitted to Vermillion for treatment of diabetes. His wife rarely left his side. Her husband seemed to be improving. Then, suddenly, Maxwell suffered respiratory failure. The 64-year-old grandfather was revived and put on a ventilator, but he died the next day. Maxwell's autopsy revealed he had not died of respiratory or heart failure, nor had he died of diabetes. In fact, no definite cause of death could be determined. For months, the medical team was stumped. They needed to find out what was causing the patients to suffer the sudden heartbeat irregularities.
I would go through the case and I would see this kind of rhythm problem, and I'd find no evidence that the patient had any one of the natural things that could lead to this. That's when it hit me that, my goodness, if it isn't potassium, it's something very similar to potassium. If you have too much potassium, it can eliminate the heart's ability to contract and pump blood, and you wind up with cardiac arrest.
In July of 1996, Deputy Prosecutor Greg Carter joined Turchi and the medical team investigating Majors.
There was a period of time in the second 6 months of 1994, from July through December, where 67 people died, and he was present for 63. For a short period of time in 1994, that intensive care unit was like the Little Bighorn. This was a hospital which only had a 4-bed intensive care unit, which never had more than 25 to 30 people die for an entire year up until 1994.
Hey guys. Hey.
Carter met with the medical investigators to learn more about their findings. The doctors explained that the heart irregularities preceding many of the deaths might have been caused by an overdose of potassium, but that meant the autopsies wouldn't help.
The purpose of the exhumation was to rule out natural causes of death. Potassium occurs naturally in the body, and you cannot conduct a test on a body post-mortem which would indicate whether or not they died from a potassium overdose.
Yet no hard evidence linked Majors to the deaths. Then in October of 1996, state police detectives took the statement of Mark Foster, a Vermillion County Hospital employee who had also lived with Majors until December of 1995.
some vials in the garage.
He told detectives that in December of 1995, he had discovered empty bottles of potassium chloride in the garage of the house that they shared.
About as big as your thumb.
He identified the
They're used
container
for
as the same
medicine.
type used at the Vermillion
Syringe
County
covered it
Hospital.
and extract the medicine from the bottle. It's a little.
Foster said
bottle
that it was
that
against
you do.
regulations to bring
I found
any
those
drug
bottles
home
on
from the
the floor.
facility.
What color was this material? It's
Foster and Majors had both moved out, but detectives secured a warrant to search their former house and garage. They collected more than 40 pieces of evidence, including syringes and several partially full vials. Ordering the contents of the vials tested, lead detective Frank Turchi learned that they contained an undiluted concentration of potassium chloride. It was the first direct link between Majors and the chemical they believe had killed the patients. In 1994, the most dangerous place to be in Vermillion County, Indiana, was the hospital's intensive care unit. The most dangerous time to be there was when nurse Lynn Majors was on duty. A medical investigative team believed Majors might have used potassium injections as his weapon.
Do you carry this drug? Yes. Actually, yes, we do.
Interviewing a Vermillion ICU nurse, investigators learned that whenever a vial of potassium chloride was partially used, the remaining liquid was to be properly discarded.
This is where you keep the drugs. You have everything here, and what you're asking for is this. So, what we normally do is when we use this,
each vial was to be used only once.
So we only pop it once.
The deputy prosecutor updated the medical team on the breakthrough in the police investigation. The discovery of potassium chloride at Major's home supported the theory first proposed by Dr. Eric Prostowski.
Yeah, because the way it was very comforting to the medical team to see that they had some physical evidence to support our beliefs. I thought, thank God there's some physical thing they have now to support what we were saying, because, you know, just because we felt this way didn't mean 100% we were right.
Although it is remarkably some of
But since nurses administer potassium injections to sick patients every day, prosecutor Greg Carter knew that proving it was a murder weapon wouldn't be easy.
Notice.
Potassium is a natural occurring element in the body. People who have low potassium need to have their potassium balance restored. So potassium would be used in an IV drip in connection with another substance, such as saline, to give them potassium as a therapeutic way to elevate their potassium levels so they would be normal.
Examiners at the State Police Laboratory studied the rubber stoppers from the potassium chloride containers collected from Major's garage. Their report indicated misuse of the vials to Detective Frank Turchi.
Those potassium bottles, they were 40 milliequivalent bottles, should have one puncture. They pull out basically the solution they're going to use medically and dispose of the rest. Well, these bottles had multiple punctures, some as many as 8, I believe. So we knew that that was significant because it wasn't normal for medical use.
In April 1997, state police detectives got a break when Major's 19-year-old nephew asked to meet with them. He said that he and Majors had illegally used drugs for years, and that Majors provided the drugs, delivering them in his parents' van. Majors had made incriminating statements to his nephew, saying that after patients had stabilized, he decided to play doctor. He said police would never be able to determine what he had done. To detectives, it seemed to be a direct confession of Majors killing patients using potassium chloride, untraceable after death. Investigators secured a warrant and searched the van the nephew had mentioned. They recovered dozens of items, including 3 vials, later proven to contain potassium chloride.
These vials, or the potassium in them, was used in a manner not consistent with hospital policy. So that led us to conclude that this was being used for something other than taking care of a patient in the hospital.
Okay, boys, here's your
In December 1997, the medical team received the results of a study conducted by an independent firm. To make the study fair, authorities had numbered the nurses for the statisticians instead of using names. The study indicated that nurse 133 was uniquely and strongly associated with the deaths. Nurse 133 was Lynn Majors.
This investigation lasted from March of '95 through December of '97 and involved 700 interviews, the review of 165 medical charts multiple times, and we wanted to make sure that we had everything that we should look at, whether it's admissible or not, to look at before we made the decision to charge him.
On December 29, 1997, the Indiana State Police arrested Orville Lynn Majors at his home in Clinton, Indiana. Out of 165 patient deaths investigated, prosecutors charged Majors with 7 murders. Defense attorney Marshall Pincus worried that Majors would not get a fair trial.
We had grave doubts about that, as to whether or not we'd get a fair trial in Indiana for Lynn, because there had been 3 or more years of adverse publicity. Not only just national publicity, but worldwide coverage.
Because of the publicity, the trial was moved from Vermillion County to Clay County, 30 miles away. Circuit Judge Ernest E. Yelton presided.
This was not to become a circus from the standpoint of the citizens of Clay County, citizens of Vermillion County, or the media. It was going to be a fair, professionally conducted trial.
Chief Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Nina Alexander joined the prosecution team. She would need to help a jury understand an incredibly complex case.
It was important that the jury be able to differentiate among the 7 victims and see those 7 victims as 7 different stories, and yet also see the connection among them. And that connecting link was, of course, the defendant.
In February 1999, prosecutors suffered a significant blow to their case.
May I speak, please?
The judge ruled that no statistical evidence would be allowed at trial, including Dawn Steerick's study, which had prompted the investigation.
The defendant is being charged with 7. If I were to allow this into evidence...
Ms. Steerick's report, 1, brought in again a substantial number of deaths that were not charged, that would lengthen the trial and allow Mr. Majors' attorney to question each one of them. But more importantly, she's a supervising nurse. She's not a statistician.
It meant restructuring the prosecution.
I really did. We had to prove that that death, number 1, was unnatural, that it was in fact a murder, a homicide. And we had to prove that Mr. Majors was the perpetrator of that act, that he is the one who brought about these unnatural deaths.
Somehow, they would have to do that without the damaging numbers that almost certainly pointed to Majors' involvement. As prosecutors prepared for the trial of former nurse Lynn Majors, they believed they had a solid case linking him to 7 mysterious hospital deaths. But as Deputy Prosecutor Greg Carter knew, no case is absolute.
When we started this trial, we didn't know how we would end up. We felt that we had a good case put together for purposes of showing a jury or communicating to a jury. We didn't know what they were going to do with that. We didn't know whether or not that they would be able to grasp it or be able to understand the medical evidence or not.
The trial began on September 7, 1999. In her opening remarks, prosecutor Nina Alexander introduced the victims to the jury.
I always want juries to know my victims. The defense doesn't want them to know that. The defense does not want to personalize a trial at all. If you can't see the victim, and if you don't know the victim, then you don't have any sympathy for the act that occurred.
Chose to play.
Projecting images of each victim, the prosecutor admitted they had been sick, but outlined how each had led a normal life. Defense attorney Marshall Pincus countered that the patients who died were seriously and chronically ill.
Ladies and gentlemen,
our strategy was to show that not only did Lynn not murder anyone, no one else did either, that these people died of natural causes. All 7 of these people were brought to the hospital in critical condition to the emergency room, either from their homes or from a nursing home. Well, Lynn had not been at the nursing home before they came to the hospital, and Lynn had not been in any of their homes.
The prosecution called Dawn Steerick, head of Vermillion Hospital's ICU. Her personal study first detailed the rise in deaths during Majors' shifts, but the judge ruled it couldn't be used in court.
ICU at Vermillion County.
The prosecutor directed the jury's attention to a graphic of the intensive care unit and asked Steerick about her work
Ms.
there.
Steerick, did there develop a situation in the ICU that you became concerned about, the nursing situation?
Yes, sir.
What did you do as a result of your concern?
I made a list of the patients that had died.
Objection. Sustained. Mr. Carter, we talked about this before. I'm not going to allow you to get into
It was the precipitating event. She is the one who sat down, looked at the numbers, and said, we have a problem here. And we were not able to get in the numbers.
In her cross-examination, defense attorney Carolyn Rader established that Majors was considered a skillful nurse.
Mr. Majors at the hospital?
He was a level 3.
Okay. Level
He
3.
held the state's highest qualification. The defense attorney noted that Steerick had disagreed with suspending Majors. She had asked to be allowed to work with Majors more closely. It seemed a star prosecution witness was supporting the defendant.
He was quite capable.
He was quite capable. Did you find him to be an understanding and compassionate person?
Yes, he was.
In his recross, the deputy prosecutor asked Steerick to explain why she had made the offer to work closely with Majors.
I was worried that it was bad luck.
Bad luck?
That one person could be present at that many deaths.
No more questions, Your Honor.
The prosecutor called Indiana State Police Detective Frank Turchi.
Put your left hand on the Bible.
She knew she couldn't directly ask about the study that prompted his investigation.
I got to ask some questions, and I got to ask them in such a manner and in such a restricted manner that I think the jury concluded there was more here than they were being told. And that's what I wanted them to conclude.
During cross-examination, the defense attorney contended that Turchi's investigation had focused unfairly on Majors.
Were background checks performed on other hospital staff?
Not
Were
to
their
my-
cars and their houses searched?
Not to my knowledge.
So this
The
really sounds
disallowed
more like a
statistics would have helped explain why.
Once he had asked Officer Turchi why no one else was investigated, my position was I ought to be able to ask Officer Turchi why. And the reason why not. And that was because, 90% of the time when anybody died during that time period, the defendant was there and contributing care.
Unable to make that point in open court, the state hoped that a doctor's testimony would convince the jury.
Put your left hand on the Bible, raise your right.
Former nurse Lynn Majors was on trial for allegedly killing 7 patients in his care. The prosecution called Dr. Eric Prostowski. Nina Alexander believed his medical testimony would help jurors understand an uncommon method of murder.
There are 2 rooms.
You don't have bodies with ligature marks. You don't have bodies with bullet holes in them. You don't have bodies that have been beaten. So it doesn't, quote, look like what you think a murder is.
Dr. Prostowski carefully explained the electrical functions of the heart and how those functions can be interrupted by the introduction of high doses of potassium.
I took multiple examples of what high potassium looked like on one of these strips. And then I layered on top of that each patient's rhythm problem, and right next to it an example in the medical literature that looked almost identical to it with high potassium. And we did this sort of a layered approach for each patient, and we showed examples that, in essence, totally mimicked the patient's own rhythm problems. I mean, this was how the murders took place.
He testified that each death was consistent with an overdose of potassium chloride. Defense attorney Marshall Pincus questioned whether the doctor knew that one of the victims, heart patient Dorothea Hickson, had been hospitalized 20 times during the 23-month period before her death.
Introduced.
This guy had never treated any of these patients. He had never even looked at their medical history files. He didn't know what their physical histories were.
Pincus claimed that no one could prove the patients had not died of natural causes. The trial moved into its second week.
During the time that you lived with the defendant,
The state called Majors' former roommate to the stand. The roommate testified that he met Majors when they both worked as nurses at Vermillion County Hospital. Part of the time they shared a car and residence, where he had discovered containers of potassium chloride. Prosecutors also asked him about Majors' attitude toward the elderly.
During the time that you lived with the defendant, had you ever hear him say anything about old people?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Yes, ma'am. I've heard him make comments that they should be gassed.
Prosecutors next called family members of the victims.
Thank you.
The testimony of the family members was very important because many of these family members were with their loved ones just prior to their death. So they could testify as to Mr. Majors' presence.
The state called Tanya Cottrell, the daughter of one of the victims, Freddie Dale Wilson.
Why did he go to the hospital?
Cottrell testified that her father was admitted to Vermillion County Hospital on February 15, 1995, because of possible pneumonia. He was doing well, but the next day, she received an emergency call to come to the hospital. Majors met her at the door of the ICU.
Hi, Miss Cottrell. How you doing?
He said that her father wanted to tell her that he loved her and that she should be prepared for what she was going to see.
Dad, how are you doing?
Cottrell told the prosecutor that her father was trying to speak to her when she saw Majors inject something into his IV. Moments later, Wilson was
My dad
dead.
rolled his eyes to the back of his head and he was gone.
The defense pointed out that other hospital staff was working with Majors during the shift Wilson died, and that Wilson was more ill than his daughter knew.
You said it was because he had a slight case of pneumonia. Is that true? He didn't tell you that his chest pain and that his cough had been occurring for several months?
No.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Cottrell.
Dorothea Hickson had been admitted to Vermillion Hospital for treatment of a heart condition. Hickson's daughter told the prosecutor that her mother had been in good spirits when she went to the hospital. The family was stunned when 30 minutes later, Majors came to the waiting room and asked for the Hickson family. When the women joined their mother, she was alert.
Yes, you're looking so much. Oh, that's great.
But after a few minutes, Hickson stopped talking. Her daughter saw Majors removing a needle from the heparin lock in her mother's IV.
He patted Dorothea on the head and said, "Everything's going to be all right now, pumpkin." And he gave her an injection, and she died.
No further questions.
The defense attorney argued that Hickson was also seriously ill.
Mrs. Holdaway,
She had been in the hospital
Your mother
often
was
for heart
seriously ill.
problems.
when she came into the ICU,
He also reminded the jury
fact,
that no one
she
knew
did
what the syringe contained.
this was an ongoing.
There were no witnesses that saw Lynn load a syringe with potassium chloride and inject potassium chloride into a patient or into an IV bag. Lynn was an LPN. He could give shots. He was a workhorse in that hospital.
The prosecution rested. Majors' attorneys planned to begin their case by presenting expert testimony that his alleged victims died of natural causes.
Which one of us do you think ought to go first as far as
Dr. John Hunt, a family physician who treated 4 of the 7 patients, gave detailed information about their chronic health problems.
In your opinion,
He was one of the many defense witnesses who testified that no one at the hospital was murdered.
We had a tremendous defense. We had all the family doctors that treated these people testify that they felt that these people died of natural causes. We had a guy from St. Louis who is the only doctor, forensic scientist, who has ever done a study on lethal injections and the use of potassium chloride to kill people.
Potassium chloride would take us
She came here and he couldn't believe that Lynn was even charged.
up on the size, weight, and age of the subject.
Quite frankly, they can say what they want. They couldn't refute the science. Science is science.
Defense?
The defense rested, confident that they had thoroughly undermined the state's allegations.
Your Honor, the defense rests.
Majors never took the
Ladies
stand.
and gentlemen of the jury, you've listened to my instructions. You have 7 counts of murder to do.
After a 4-year investigation and 6 weeks of testimony, the jurors were left to decide whether the 7 patients died of natural causes or were murdered. The jury deliberated 33 hours before reaching a decision.
Will the defendant please rise? Mr. Foreman, will you deliver the verdict, please?
On this, the 15th day of November in the year of 1999, we, the jury, find the defendant, Orville Lynn Majors, on the count of murder in the first degree of Mrs. Dorothea
Orville Lynn Majors
guilty.
was found guilty on 6 of the 7 murder charges.
Guilty. On the count of murder in the first degree
The
of
jury
Mrs.
was
Will
unable
Hobbs.
to reach a unanimous decision in the death of Cecil Smith.
First degree of Mr. Frederick Dale Wilson.
Majors was sentenced to 60 years for each death, a total of 360 years in prison.
Each sentence.
Prosecutors considered it a hollow victory.
Bailiff.
In the larger sense, of course, you can never really have justice because you can't bring these people back. And the enormous impact of this whole thing on this small community is still going on.
The community hospital's board of trustees brought in a private company to run a new healthcare facility for the people of Clinton, Indiana.